Hey Mo.
Hey Yuval, what's up?
Everything is cool. So exciting. How are you?
Also good, thank you.
Perfect. So it's 5 p.m. here. That's the time we scheduled here in Tel Aviv. But let's give another 2 or 3 minutes for everybody to join. So let's
Cool.
just chat, see who's joining. I see like almost 30 already joined, which is really exciting. Thank
Very
you everybody for joining. Um, that's cool. So we'll start in a minute or two. Take your time, be ready, drink something. So let's see who's here already. Ismail, hello, how are you? Saurav, of course, is here, the man behind the show. Saurav, thank you for organizing everything. Shaham, Muhammad, Oin, welcome everybody. So let's start, Mo. Let's start.
Let's start.
So what are we doing today?
We're going to talk of the open source and how we can contribute this large community.
Exactly. So let me introduce myself to everybody, and then you'll do the same, and then we can start. So, hi everybody. I'm Yuval. I'm founder and CEO of Amplication. Working on Amplication for the last 2 years as open source project. Very exciting journey. You probably hear about the product, so I will not talk too much about it because this is not the reason we gathered today. What we will do today is talking about open source contribution, how to do it, how to start. I know some of you or many of you want to do it but don't really know how, so this is what we talk about today. Mo, why won't you tell us about you?
Hi everyone, thank you for joining us. I'm Mor, I'm a full stack developer at Application for nearly a month, and I'm a developer for the last 6 years.
Cool. So the reason we started with this webinar, this meetup, is since you joined, it's your first opportunity, your first experience working on open source. Is that right?
Correct.
Yeah. And you came to me and said, listen, it's amazing. So you've been working your entire career on projects which were not open source, but you used to use a lot of open source projects, right? So
Yes, I used to work with a lot of open source code in my private project, in the other companies that I worked there, and but never thought to contribute them back. And now
how
that
is
I'm
your
here,
experience so far?
what?
How is your experience so far working on open source project?
Amazing. I didn't expect this huge community, and I have a lot of fun. And before I get to application, I didn't expose to this large community of the open source and the power that the community have. And now that I'm here with you guys, I finally get a chance to experience this community and the type of the working on the our application in the open source, and it's amazing. I learn
That's
every day new things and
that's great.
exposed to a
So
lot of
what was the reason? What was the reason, or what were the reasons you didn't contribute to open source until today?
okay, so I didn't think to contribute because the first thing, I didn't have enough confidence to share my code in public. I was a little bit scared of the critics that they criticize me and judge my code.
I had
This
the same exact same feeling when I started working on open source. I know that. I think that's one of the reason working on open source is so great, because once you start doing it and start writing in public, you get so much confidence on your code, and you realize that you can actually learn more just by writing in public, because you stick more to standards and you get feedback and you get really good advice from the community. But I totally relate to that reason. So yeah, confidence. I think that's the first reason. What
Yeah.
else?
What else? I didn't realize that my contribute to the open source will really help to the founders, and also I thought that the opposite will happen. So I only bother them in my request, in my open issue, and they
Yeah.
think they like this.
Totally. So of course, right now, from working within a project, we understand how important these contribution are, and how excited are we. So Saraf just today posted a tweet showing this excited man saying that that's every open source maintainer when somebody new start contributing on the project. So yeah, I totally agree that once you're before you get into those projects, you don't really realize the impact of what you're doing, and the fact that contributors or maintainers we really like those contributions. So I totally agree. What about the process? So did you know, or when you started working on application, I guess you already or also had to learn the new process of how to contributing to a Github repo.
Yes, so here I have wonderful people that taught me the process in the application. But before I get here, I really didn't know how this process is going. From where do I start to get in touch? How to open issue? I
And this
didn't.
is exactly what we're going to do today.
Of
Yeah,
course.
this is exactly what we're going to show all the great community that join, or community member that joined today. We will do a step by step for all the process, from opening an issue to cloning the repo and sending the pull request, and then we will make sure everybody know how to do that. I must say initially that what we're going to show today is specific for application, but 99% is similar to any other project, any other open source project in the world. The entire process of the formality, like forking, cloning, committing, and pull request, that's exactly the same. There are maybe some differences of how you do it, or maybe messaging formats and things like that are different between different repositories, and we'll talk about it also once we move forward. So I think we're ready to start, right?
Right.
Okay, cool.
So,
So let me share my screen, and I'm right now in the application repository. And what we want to do today, I will be the contributor. I will do whatever a contributor need to do on my screen, and you will be the maintainer in that process, and you will just approve my issue, or assign me the issue to start working on, so the audience can see exactly what's going on behind the scene. So I will go first, and what I want to do here, I want to start by opening an issue. So let's say I know application, I started read application, started use the code or whatever, and then I realize something is wrong, and I will open an issue, and then I will start working on the issue, and I will send a pull request to fix that.
cool.
So to start by creating an issue, I will just click here on issues, click on new issue, and for our use case, I will just create a docs bug report, something in the docs, so it's going to be easier for us to fix it right now during this session. So of course, if it's a code bug report, or if it's a feature request, you can use the different templates. So let's create this bug report, and I will say that README file is missing hello world. Okay, which is just imaginary bug report. And I will also write that in the documentation of the bug itself. How to solve the problem, add hello world to the README file. And that's it. Basically, I'm also willing to submit a PR.
Very easy.
Okay, so I'm willing to submit a PR, and I will just click on submit new issue, and I'm done. So this is first one, first step, just to create the issue. Now, since I want to work on this issue and I want to resolve that, the first thing to do is to ask to be assigned to the issue. So it's really recommended for everybody not to start working on an issue before you are assigned to it, because maybe somebody else is assigned to it, maybe the issue was not accepted yet, and you are not expected to send a PR. So can I work on this issue? Right, so I will just send this question. And Mor, I think this is your turn now. So maybe let's move to your screen.
Go ahead. Okay. So now basically I'm in the application repo, and I already go to issue tab and see the issue that Yuval opened to me. Now I enter to him and see that Yuval asked me to work this issue. I over the issue, I'll say, okay, we need to fix it. So I answer to Yuval. Hey, Yuval, of course. After I confirm the issue, I go and assign Yuval this bug fix.
Perfect.
That's it. Now Yuval can actually start to work on this issue.
Cool, thank you. So let's go back to my screen. And basically what happened now, once you assign me the issue, I will also get an email saying that it was assigned, and I can actually see on the screen that Mor assigned Yuval Hazaz, and I can start working on it. All right, so now the real process starts, and let's get to know a nice file called contributing MD. Every open source project in the world, or most of them, have a file called contributing MD with instruction to contributors, how to contribute to that specific code. Like I said, 90% of the process is identical for all repos or all projects in the world, but there are some minor differences between the processes. So if we're looking on this file, contributing MD in Amplication, we can see that we talk about different type of contribution, not only bug fixes or not only code contribution. You can also report bugs, you can write tutorials and do a lot of stuff, but we will skip that for a second. We'll talk about the other type of contribution in a minute or after this part. But let's start with how do I make code contribution? And we have a step-by-step process here. Step 1, make a fork. Step 2, clone the repo, and so on. 9 steps, and you will see that it's not that long. So let's start with that. Make a fork. Fork the application.
Just a second. What is a fork?
Okay. All right. So when you work in a repository, usually you should get permission in order to work directly on the repository. So anybody from the community can go ahead and open issues in application repository, but they cannot commit directly code changes to the repo. They must work on a fork. A fork is like an entire duplication of the entire repo from our ownership to the user ownership. And from that point, you can move on and do whatever you want on the fork. And then eventually, when the changes are ready, you can push the pull request, or you can create a pull request back to the upstream repo, which is application repo, in order for us to include the changes in the repo. So in order to fork the repo, I will click on fork. Usually, you will be asked to select to where you want to fork it. Right now, I already have a fork, so I will just switch to that fork. And this is first step 1. And let's go back to the doc. Contributing. And let's go back to step 2, clone the repository. So cloning the repository meaning copying the entire code base to my local machine, to my development environment. So how to clone the repository? The best way to do that is on the root of my fork. We can see this code button. If I click on it, I can copy the URL for the repository. And now I can go to my IDE, any IDE I want to work with, and start doing the code changes. In my example, I will use VS Code, and I will choose the command git clone, and I will paste in the URL of the repository I just copied. Now the next step will be to choose where to put that code in. So I will just select a folder on my computer, and I will select that repository location. And now I've been asked, once it will be done, I will be asked, should I want to open that? And I will just open the project, and you will see the project exists with all the code and all everything we need in order to start working on it. What do you say, Mor?
So far, looks a piece of cake.
Right, that's correct. So let's give it just another second, probably. The internet connection here is not that fast to copy everything, but usually it should not take more than like 4 or 5 seconds stop. But we'll give it another chance, and once it's ready, we will continue. Meanwhile, let's go back to the contributing file, and let's see what's going to be the next step. So next step will be to prepare the development environment, and this is of course very specific to each project. So with Amplication, in order to start working with Amplication, you need to go and run npm install and then npm run setup dev. There are a few prerequisites for TypeScript, Node.js, npm, but for this demonstration, since we are only changing documentation, we will not go through this step, which, like I said, it's really individual per project. The next thing will be to create a branch. And let's go back to the code, which now completed, and I will open the repository. I will open the code base.
Basically, we need to create branch because it's not the best practice to work on the master, correct?
Absolutely, absolutely. So you never commit to master directly. Each project has its own branching strategy. Usually when you work on a project, you don't really know the exact strategy. So when we talk about the pull request, we will ask where should we push this code. But of course, the first thing to do is to create a branch. So let's create a branch. We'll call it docs readme hello. And you remember the issue was that the readme file is missing the hello world greeting. So we will just go directly to the readme file. This is the file. And it's already here. How weird. Let me just 1 second. That's weird. It's not supposed to be. Oh, I know why. Yeah, because I'm working on my fork, and we already did that when we prepared to that. So let's do something else. Let's do hello world 2. Right. So we just add another change on the file, and if we look on the changes, we see now that we added this change on the file. And we think that everything is great. Of course, in that specific time before you commit changes and before you send a pull request, usually you will be required to test the code if you are dealing with code changes. Right now, no code changes, so we are not required to do that. And let's go back to the steps. So we created a branch. We made the code changes. Now what we need to do is to add the changes or stage them on Git and then commit the changes on Git. So I'll go back here. One way to do it with the IDE in VS Code is just clicking here in order to edit or stage the file. We can do that also from here, git add dot, which is like just adding all file to the staging. And here it is. And then the next thing would be to commit. So we will add a commit message. Commit message in that case is going to be docs server add hello world 2. And I'm ready to commit it. So I will just click here, or command enter in our case will do the same. And we have a commit. Cool. What's the next stage? Push the changes to the remote repository. So when you're working on Git, so you're working everything locally on your own Git server, but now we want to push it back to the remote server on application. So I will click here or Git push. It's also all option will work. That's it. I push the changes. Now I need to create a pull request. So this is the most exciting step, I think. Once you're ready, you want to push the pull request back to the application repository and ask the maintainers to accept those changes. So once I'm going to my own fork, I see this message. Docs readme hello world, the recent pushes less than a minute ago. I can just click on compare and pull request. But let's say, in case I don't see that, so if I will come back in after some time, I will not see that. So what I need to do is click on branches here. I will find the branch and I can click here on new pull request. So it's the exact same thing. Cool. So I'm ready to push those changes from Yuvaal application in the branch docs readme to the base repository, which is application, the upstream, to master. So I don't really know the branching strategy and where should I do that. So usually maybe I can look for a release. So for example, I see this next release is 0.14, 11.14, which is cool. But even if I keep it on master, that's not too bad because the maintainer will be able to choose exactly where to merge the changes. Now, you should follow the specific instruction on each repository on how to push changes. In our case, we need to add an issue number. So the issue number is going to be this one, which we just created, 2328. And the PR detail is going to be adding the hello world to readme. All right, that's it.
Cool.
All I have to do is just maybe have a look to make sure everything looks fine. And I see that I'm going to push those two changes that I did to application repo. And I create on pull request. Click on create pull request. That's it. I'm done. From now, it's your turn, Mo.
I don't know. Okay, so now I'm going to the pull request and see Yuvaal request for readme hello world. Go in here. I can merge the changes, but I will not do it now. I also can see the changes Yuvaal made. You can see he add the hello world and the hello world too. After that, I say, looks good. And now I can come back and merge the pull request of Yuvaal. And I also can choose from where to where branch I want to merge the changes. And I'm done. So Yuvaal.
So exciting. I made my first pull request in application. I'm
Right.
so excited. But of course, Mo, it's not always like that. So sometimes you will get from the maintainer some feedbacks. Maybe you didn't do everything correctly. They will send you code review with some changes. You will be required to change that, and that's part of the education process when working with open source project. You had the chance to work really with amazing people and get feedback from those amazing people. So imagine that you can just go ahead and send a pull request to Next.js or React or any other Prisma or any other cool open source project, and the maintainers of those projects will be able to review your code, will give you comments, will give you tips how to improve or how to improve your code, and that's really great.
Great.
Okay, cool. So from A to Z, the process of contributing to open source is not that frightening, right?
No.
Cool. So
very, very friendly.
Yep, I agree. So let's say we prepared a slide about types of contribution. So not everybody are ready to contribute code, and that's fine. You don't have to contribute code in order to start and contributing to open source projects. So any help counts, and a lot of projects are looking for other types and different types of contribution, and we can see them here. So of course you can open issues. So you use the product, you love the product, but you saw an error, you saw something, go ahead and open an issue. The maintainers will appreciate it, of course, and those are important because user feedbacks is the most important thing when you creating a project, and especially in open source, and you have the chance to talk directly with the community, which is great. You want to talk about the rest of the stuff here on the list?
Oh, go ahead. But I agree. The more you test in the product, more you find the bugs and issue or new features that you want to add and work on them and improve your product. And with the help of the community and the use of the product, we can get these issues fixed.
That's right. And okay, what other type of contribution, of course, you can see is opening feature request. If you have ideas, you can talk about the project. So when application, for example, or any other project, you build a project, you want people to use it. You want the whole world to know about it. And as an open source community member, you can just talk about it. You can write blogs about it. You can create tutorials on YouTube and talk about it on Twitter. You can create demo apps. So to publish use cases, write blogs about use cases. And all of those are really, really helpful and really, really great. Cool. I think it's time for questions. If we have questions from the community, so we can answer those right now. Of course, you can see on our on the screen links to our GitHub repository and our Discord. So if you have further question after that, you can join our Discord. We will be able to help you doing your first contribution in application or in any other open source project. By the way, we talked about it before. So part of our success as being an open source is the community, and people contributed to us, and that was amazing. And now, just sharing with everybody, everybody in application, including you, and you know that already, are requested to go and contribute to open source on your own work time. So part of the task in application is going and giving back to open source. So if you want to contribute to any open source, which is not application, and you need help, you can come to us. That's going to be part of our open source contribution, giving back to community. We would love to do that.
Amazing.
Okay, we have a question from Amit. We missed that. So how to keep my fork up to date? So first, I want to say hi to Amit. Amit, she's go ahead, Mor.
No, say hello, Amit.
Yeah. So Amit is an amazing contributor already. She don't really need that session. She can teach us all how to contribute to open source. She's doing amazing job in application, and she actually did some really cool PRs on application in the last couple of weeks, including code generation and some really, really deep stuff. And way to go, Amit. So our question is how to keep my fork up to date, and I think that's a great question. So you saw my fork, which was not really up to date when I started because I had some commit, which was not committed. But can you go back to my screen, Saurav? I will show that. So you see here, fetch upstream. Easy command. Once I click that, it will fetch all data from application back to my fork. So if there are new commits in application, I will always be up to date. And once I'm working on new code contribution, that's going to be part of my fork also. Thank you, Amit. Ofek, oh come on, Ofek. It is one of the best. Okay, cool. That's not a question, and I agree with you, Ofek.
I also agree with Ofek.
Yeah. Okay, next question. Amit, is that answering your question? I hope it does. Thanks. Okay, next question is coming from Muhammad. How to know if the issue is accepted? So you want to answer that, Mor?
Okay, so basically when I previously see to you guys how I of the PR request of Yuval, and basically after I see that everything is okay, I merge the changes of Yuval to the master or the branch we are working on them, and then you will get a notification that your changes approved, and that's it.
Yeah, and one of the nice thing about GitHub, eventually it's some kind of a social network. It's some like our own Facebook for developers. So we can communicate there. We can talk and ask questions. And so for every issue, for every pull request, there is a way to have full conversations. So if you are not sure if your code was accepted, your issue was accepted, you have any question, just write a comment on that issue or that PR, and you will be able to talk directly with the maintainers. Thank you, Muhammad, for that question. I hope it answered you. That's a long one. You want to read it?
Go ahead.
Okay. Sometimes we don't have knowledge of the tech stack and things to get a bit overwhelming while learning. What are some of the best practices to follow so that we aren't stuck in a loop of just learning? That's an heavy one. And, it's just my opinion. I think you should start contributing with something you already know. So don't try to do two things together. So first, learn how to code on a specific technology and then learn how to contribute to open source, or the other way around. So just make sure you do the first, second, third contribution on something you already know. And as we showed today, you can even start with documentation. You don't have to start with code. So start the first contribution on something you're already familiar with. And once you get enough confidence on contributing to open source, this is when I think you can move to learning the technology. And it's a great opportunity to learn technology and learn new stacks. And, I saw, by the way, Ofek, the nice guy who just commented before about Amit, he was an open source contributor for Amplication, and now he's an employee at Amplication. So he started as an open source contributor for a while. He just came after college, and he finished his study of computer programming and development, and he liked Amplication. He came and started contributing. And once we saw this cool guy, handsome guy, by the way, also, he was doing great contribution, so we offered him to join. So I think contributing to open source is also great opportunity to gain experience. So learn new technology, learn new stacks, gain experience, and then you can put it on your resume. You can put it on your CV. It says I'm an open source contribution in Amplication or React or anything other than that. Ofek, you again. How do you suggest to get to know a new open source project that I want to support? So I'm not sure if you should look for open source project that you are not familiar with in order to go and support it. I think the best thing to do is just support the project that you're already using. And you are using a lot of open source project in your own code, in any project, not only in Amplication, which is open source. Closed source projects also use a lot of open source. And if you're using something, you love it, you want to give back, just go ahead and try to give back. Other way is if you are technology specific and you want to be more proficient in TypeScript or Node.js, maybe try to look for a specific project in that domain that can teach you and give you more skills. But from my perspective, I think the best thing to do is to give back to the project you already use as a user. You will understand the use case, you will understand the flows, you will understand the reason behind the code, and it will make it much easier for you to contribute. What do you think, Mor?
Thank you. I agree with you. I think this
Thank
is
you.
the right way.
Cool. Matan, can people who don't know code can contribute? Yeah, I think that's the other slide we showed. There are many ways to contribute code, and design, QA, bugs, tutorials, doc, everything we mentioned before. That's a way to contribute to open source project. Trust me, any project that will get a UX designer that come and start making the project more beautiful, the maintainer will love it. They will be excited about it. Sachin, how are you, man? What are some questions one must ask to the maintainers to better understand the project that and level up the contribution? Wow, that's heavy. I'm not sure if I have any response to that. More, do you have a answer?
I'm trying to think about one.
So I think it really depends on what you're missing. So we mentioned Amit before,
It's
and
a
she
high level question.
what?
I say it's a high level question. There are many answers.
So I mentioned Amit before, and sorry Amit for using your name too much, but you are doing a great job, and you are a good example for many use cases. So before Amit contributed to the project, she actually started reading and gave us feedback on some of the documentation that were missing. So she asked question about how to run the development process, and if you go and look on the contributing file and look on the history of that file, you will see that we just changed it recently, like a week ago or even less than that. And all those changes were based on comments and feedback from Amit. So she was looking at it. She said, "Listen, I'm missing something. What am I missing?" And so on. And that feedback helped us a lot.
I think also the more you use the product and test it and play with it and read the documentation, like I did when I get here, you understand more how the product works, and then you have more questions to ask after you learn a little bit of the system and their design.
Absolutely. And by the way, we are using Discord, but each open source project is using other tools like Slack and so on. And bottom line, most of the open source projects also have like tools to manage the community, like platform for the community. So you can talk much like freely on anything, not only on your contribution. And that's a good way to join and learn about the project, ask question, maybe see what others were asking before, and then you can learn from that also. Thank you for that question. Divayansh, I hope I said your right name correctly. Gupta, how to choose open source project for beginners on the basis of complexity from contributor point of view. Okay, I think well, there are many like small projects in GitHub where you can go ahead and contribute, but I think it's kind of vicious circle when the more simple the project, the less places you have opportunity to contribute because it's too simple. You don't really have anything to contribute there and so on. But I think the best thing, like I said before, is find a project you like, find a project you use, and try to start with contributions that are maybe less complicated, and it doesn't have to be code. Docs, bugs, anything like that. And by the way, that's something, let me share my screen for a second. Every repo, if I'll go back to Amplication, in the issues is using something called good first issue in the label. So there are labels on each of the issues. And good first issue, I think it's a really good place to start, because if you look on good first issue, those issues are ones that the contributors or maintainers designated as something that is really easy and doesn't really require depth understanding of the project, where you can go ahead and start with those. So these are small, minor things that you can start with, and I think that's the best way to start with. Okay. Roin, do you believe junior DevOps can make contribution to your open source code, and in what way? Of course, absolutely. Like I said, Ofek is now an employee of Amplication, and he started as a junior with no experience, and is now killing it. So yeah, everybody are welcome to the party. Just go and look for good first issue, and start contributing. There are sometimes even typos. You will find issues to fix a typo, or to fix like something in the style, CSS, HTML, things that will not require too much of an effort in order to start. And from that way, just keep moving forward. Cool. How to explore the project quickly and strategies to get started quickly. So, of course, the README file is the first point to start for every project. If you go to the repository, open the README file, this is where you find all the information about the project. Usually it will include an overview of the project, some maybe links to demos or tutorials, some explanation on how to contribute, maybe links to the Discord community. So README is the best way to start on every project. When you first approach it, go ahead and read the README. Thank you, Sachin. Great. Thank you, everybody. So, final call, everybody. To go and add a star on our repo. We will appreciate it a lot. By the way, just another way to contribute. Every repo you like, every project you like, just go ahead and add a star. I think that's the first thing to do. That will tell the maintainer that somebody else in the world liked their project, and that's always nice to see. Amit, I generated an app with Amplication, and the first thing I wanted to know is how this magic has just happened. Well, now you know better than everybody, but yeah, I appreciate the comment. Nice of you. We do a lot of nice stuff in Amplication, and I'm proud of it. And I encourage everybody to come and join and learn more about what we're doing.
What?
Cool. So, Mor, I think we're done for today. How was it?
Amazing. I enjoy very
Cool.
much
Me
from
too.
and the
Me too.
questions was interesting questions.
Yeah, I agree. So Saraf just mentioned on the comment, we have created a voice channel on Discord. So we will be there. We will be here on the voice channel for the next 30 minutes or so. If anybody want to join and chat and talk with us, we would love to do that. So see you there. Mo, thank you very much for joining. I enjoyed that.
Me too.
Thank you for being part of Amplication.
Oh, this is nice.
Bye-bye.